Good afternoon, friends and family of Center for Spiritual Living Ocala. I am Reverend Cindy Grimes, and I'm so glad you chose to join us this afternoon. We've got another great program for you. If this is your first time with the Center for Spiritual Living tuning in, I'm going to tell you a little bit about us, and we will start with our values, what's important to us here at the Center for Spiritual Living Ocala. The number one thing on our list is spiritual growth and practice. That's the whole reason we come together, is to grow spiritually and to practice different ways of doing that. And we appreciate love, and I hope you feel that from each person that speaks from this platform and from the folks that are part of this center. We value appreciation. That's giving gratitude in all things. We value community and freedom. We value creativity, health, wholeness, generosity, and of course, financial well-being. And our mission at the Center for Spiritual Living Ocala is the same as the mission of the larger organization. We are part of a larger group of people that is all over the country, all over the world, actually. And our mission at Centers for Spiritual Living is to provide spiritual tools for personal and global transformation. Our purpose is to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence. We believe that each and every individual is a manifestation of that divinity that you might call God, the universe, whatever name you call it, doesn't matter. We believe that we are each part of that, and our purpose at Centers for Spiritual Living is to help people tap into that. And our vision is a world that works for everyone. That means that world works for me, it works for you, it works for your loved ones. And that is a grand purpose right there. So I'm going to now bring in Donna Davis, one of our practitioners, who is going to pray us in. Hi, Donna.
Hello. Hi.
Hello. Love that smile. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. We're just kind of relaxing at home, and I'm doing my son's hair, so it's nice to be able to step into mama mode for a second.
Oh, how awesome.
It's
Awesome.
a
Love
little,
to
it doesn't happen as often when you have adult children, but so whenever you get a chance to step into that, I do it.
Awesome. So thank you for taking some time away from family to hang out with us and
Of
lead our
course.
prayer. Love you. I'm going to take
All
myself out
right.
here and just let you have the screen.
Okay. Hi, everybody. From my heart to yours, I love each and every one of you. And so I invite you now to just go into a moment with me where we allow our mind to take a journey into spiritual mind treatment and affirmative prayer. So sit back, relax, lay in your bed, sit in your seat, wherever you are, just get as comfortable as you can. Just drop into your physical body and allow your heart to beat itself. Divine mind and creative energy and life is behind every single heartbeat. Every single breath that comes, allow it to just come easily and flow through you. It is from this moment that I sit and recognize the allness around me. Life, energy, God, goddess, all of it. It is the thing that tells the sun to make itself known every morning and disappear behind the horizon every evening. It's the same thing that tells the tides what to do. There is divine knowingness behind all of it. It is not just the creative force, but the actual thing itself that is creative and that is also created. And as I sit in my seat today, knowing that I am sitting in the very thing that is life, because life courses through my veins, and life is what keeps me going, and life is what beats my heartbeat. And life is God, and God is good, and always giving and always expanding itself. As I sit here in that presence, in that feel of all-knowingness, in that feel of connection to everything and everyone, past, present, future, all of it exists within life. And it's from that space of oneness that I allow my mind to expand And then recognize also that the oneness is also where every other person resides. We are all standing on holy ground. We're all interwoven and connected into each other's life. And as our purpose reveals itself, it unveils, the fog is lifting. The fog of pretense is lifting from us in this very moment. As I sit in this seat and allow life to course through my veins. It is from that space of connection and knowingness that we allow for the story that is Elle's life to unfold. And we celebrate with the joy that she celebrates. And we know that the sorrow dissipates just as everything happens, ebb and flow. So too in our lives, things happen, ebb and flow. We celebrate the joy and we cry for the sorrow, but all of it ebbs and flows because all of it is life expressing itself. Life expressing through me, through you, through everyone. Life expressing as animals, life expressing as plants, expressing as people, generation after generation, unfolding to give us this beautiful tapestry that we call humanity and existence. And the love of the divine flows through every single part of it, even in the darkest parts, even in the storms that come across our way. We too know that such is those storms. They too will lift and flow and pass because that is the truth. And through all of it, life still remains. We see it in the crawling of the very ant and the beauty of volcanoes as they erupt, and the gorgeousness of a sunrise and sunset. And so I speak my word knowing that each of us connect to ourselves. We connect to our humanity, but most importantly, we connect to that very thing that is life. Because that is God expressing as me and as you and as Elle and Reverend Cindy and as my dog and your cat and the guinea pig and the mountains and the trees. All of it expressing as the one energy that is God. I'm so grateful for this knowledge. I'm grateful for each and every person as they show up in their life, as we have our stories together. I'm grateful for the love that's interwoven underneath it all and the passion of people as we change and ebb and flow with each other. And so I release all these thoughts back into the all-knowing field that is the law that makes everything work and change, always expanding and expressing. And I invite you now to take a deep breath and release it with a, and so it is.
And so it
And
is.
so it is. Amen. And so it is. Namaste, my brothers and sisters.
Amen. Always so beautiful,
Thank
Donna. I
Hi.
want to tell people to tune in to the Big Sky Retreat
Yes.
broadcast that happened last night. If they missed it live, they can still catch it. And
It's music, it's talks, it's sharing, it's just, and if you've never been to Big Sky in Montana, you've got to go one time because magic happens on the mountain. And it's just amazing to see all their faces and to hear their voices. And I just dropped right back into that mountain. It was just so cool.
well, we would be there if it wasn't for COVID because
Exactly.
it's going and it's in its 45th year. And here's the cool thing: if people watch that broadcast, they have an opportunity between now and Tuesday to get a greatly discounted rate for the ticket for 2021.
Oh,
Did you hear?
awesome.
You didn't
That's
hear that?
awesome. No, I didn't hear that part.
Yeah, yeah. And the other great thing is that they'll get to see you and Norma doing the
Yes.
invitation, which was so beautiful.
Thank you. Thank
Your
you. Thank you.
reputation is preceding you as a
I
beautiful.
know. And all I do is take people on a journey with me. That's all I do.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. So I just want to tell people to watch that because it was really beautiful and it was a great event. And I'd love to get a whole big group of us to go next year because I'm going to be speaking.
I know.
Not just because of
Listen,
that, but
you
because,
guys don't know, man. You have to put the link on, Cindy, of Kindness is a Cure so they can hear that TED Talk because that was just so incredible.
well, thank you. I will do that. And thanks again. Love you.
Love you.
Catch
Bye,
up
everybody.
later.
I'll be watching with y'all.
Okay. Say hi to Norma. I know she's sitting there somewhere next to you. All right. We'll see you
All right.
later. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
All right. So this week we are having a follow-up conversation. If you are a regular and you joined us last week, you know we had an amazing, amazing testimonial from a woman named Elle O'Dowd, whose story I heard through River Phoenix Center for Peace Building. Elle shared her story of loss, of pain, of losing her daughter Emily, to a drunk driver, and the pain of that experience. And then having the opportunity to speak with the man who was responsible for that, and how that experience of meeting him in prison in that conversation just changed the trajectory of both their lives. And it's an incredible story. If you have not watched it, go back and look at that. But we're going to pick up where we left off last week and just have a conversation today about the work that Elle is doing and what she's learned through that experience. And we have a lot of commonality there. I feel like I've met a soul sister here, one of our tribe that, we just didn't know we were friends already. So let me bring her on in. Hello, dear.
Hi,
Welcome.
wonderful to be with you again.
Yes, yes, it is. It's just a wonderful opportunity. I looked forward to it for months, and then we got sidetracked for a little bit, and here we are. And I knew it was going to take two talks. I just knew it because there was so much richness and so much beauty and so much to share. So I don't know if you want to pick up from last week, maybe give people a little synopsis for those folks who haven't heard it, if there's anything you want to share or add.
I can just do a short little review of what happened.
Yeah. Okay.
Emily was my 24-year-old daughter who was killed by a drunk driver in 2009. And for the next 10 years, I went through all the things you go through when you lose a child. It was the most devastating thing that had ever happened to me. She was beautiful and funny and kind and stubborn, and at the beginning of her life. And losing her sent me into a tailspin of depression and grief, sadness, loss. And then I saw a bumper sticker that said "Love Wins," and I decided that was a good thing to hang on to, and maybe to see if that really was true, that love could win in this situation, because it was pretty dark for a long time. And I used to get up in the mornings and just pray that today I would ask, let me see love in the world today. And what I found out is that there was love all around me all the time. And I was able to see it, and it changed my life, and it didn't take away everything. I still grieved for her and loss. Uh, Losing her is still a, a horrible thing, because I think about what we could be doing together, and all the things that I've missed and she's missed because she's not here. But fast forward to uh, 2019, January 15th, I went to San Quentin, and after 8 months of preparation, met the man who was responsible for Emily's death. And it was an amazing, amazing time of love and grace and forgiveness. And Love is so real and so extravagant and so over the top. And he's my friend, and we correspond and talk on the phone every once in a while. But a lot of healing took place for both of us on that day.
You
So,
mentioned that you had wanted to meet him, and I think did that surprise people that you wanted to meet him, and then also the surprise that you weren't able to do that, that the system doesn't even allow for that.
the system doesn't allow you to meet with the offender, and but it always was a problem to me, because here's the person that has had the greatest impact on my life of anybody, and I didn't know anything about him other than he was an alcoholic and had 7 DUIs, and what that told me is that he had issues and trauma from his childhood. Um, yeah, it's kind of, people don't always understand when you want to connect with this person that's harmed you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did that meeting actually come to pass? How did you get to was it something you pursued?
It's called Victim Offender Dialogue, and it has to be victim survivor initiated. So I had to go, and I called the DA and was put in touch with a group in California that facilitates VODs. And so, yeah, the victim and the survivor have to request it.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people know that it's even, well, in California, the program is extensive. And I'm hoping that we get something here in Florida where it becomes a law that people can have victim offender dialogues, because it's very healing. There's so much left undone after after a crime. So many loose ends, so much pain, and there's nowhere to go with it. And yeah.
That's one of the things I think people forget unless they have been in a situation like that, that there's a crime that happens, there are people that are impacted, and then the system says, okay, this person's going to jail for so many years, case closed, we're done.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, it's never done for the people that were involved.
Yeah, it's never done.
It's never done.
No, and the case is not closed. The legal part of it, punitive part of it might be closed, but the personal and the heart of it's never done until you can have that resolution with someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what the dialogue allows for. It really is about being able to get closure and healing.
Yeah.
Whether it doesn't change necessarily the outcome, he's still serving the rest of his sentence, but he's serving it probably in a much different way now.
Yeah. And actually, it's not even, doesn't even become a part of his record. He doesn't really get anything from it other than just the personal healing and saying the things that he needed to say. So
Yeah.
it took 8 months for us to work through everything we needed to work through to get to the point where we could have the conversation.
And so you were both working with people, facilitators, or people that are in this work.
Right. Yeah, we had 2 facilitators, and we would get together, have a conversation. We would talk about things I needed to talk about. It's also victim centered and victim driven. And then they would go and see him in the prison, and we exchanged letters back and forth because we hadn't done that up until then, and just began to learn about each other. And it was good.
Yeah.
It took 8 months, and we worked until there wasn't anything else to work on, and then set the date for it, which was January 15th of last year.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm struck by, when I think about how much courage it takes on both parts, right?
Both of them.
What it had to take for him to be able to face you, what it took for you to reach out and want to face him, and for him to say yes. Like, it has to be, all of the parties have to be of one accord.
Yes. That's the thing that impressed me about him, that caused me to begin to see him not as the offender, not as the person who took Emily's life, but as a human being. And there was a shift for me when he said, absolutely, he would meet with me and he would do whatever I wanted to do. And there was a shift. I just began to see him as a human being. And it was really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how was the meeting different? Was it different than what you expected?
As prepared as we both were
Mhm.
for it. I mean, it wasn't, I could not have imagined how it went. I couldn't have imagined what was accomplished in those 5 hours. Um, we sat across a very narrow table right across from each other, and when he came in, he looked like a prisoner. He looked like someone who had been inside for the 9 years, and his face was gray, and he was kind of stooped over, and you could see the shame that he was feeling, and that gradually lifted and changed over the course of the 5 hours that we were together. It was amazing. And I felt myself, I wasn't aware of the heaviness that I carried with me until it lifted during our time together.
Yeah.
There's something about um, when he took accountability, when he called it what it was, when he didn't make any excuses about what he did or tried to blame anybody or his childhood, or when he just took responsibility for it. I was allowed to go, that allowed me just to go to a depth of forgiveness that I didn't know was possible.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's part of why I connected with you so quickly, that heart connection. Because when you described Alan and his transformation during that 5 hours,
Mhm.
I saw that time and time again in the classes that I did. Now, it didn't happen in 5 hours. Ours was more like 5 months, 15
Yeah.
months to
Right.
see that somebody, there's one person in particular, I'll call him Bill, who had a similar story,
Mhm.
to Alan's. And when we met, he was that same kind of gray.
Mhm.
This looked like death warmed over, really. There was so much pain, like it radiated from him, And I could see over the months of conversation and the work that he did, because he had to do a lot of work. He did a lot of self-reflection and stuff that you could see the layers just kind of falling off and falling off. And he was a different person by the time, we were done with our classes and our time together. But there was so much pain. I mean, that was an individual. I'll tell his story real quick. He was the first person in his family to go to college, and he was an engineer, and he was like the fix-it guy at work. He got things done. So if they needed to hire somebody, they needed to fire somebody, Bill did it. It was business. His heart didn't get caught up in it. He just did what he needed to do. And his bosses and people would just kind of joke that, yeah, Bill gets the job done, but there's always like dead bodies in his wake. They would joke like that. And one night, Bill and his wife kind of, had a little spat, and he went to leave. He's just going to go and visit a friend, but he'd been drinking, and he got in his car and went to his friend's house and never made it. And this time there was You know, it was a death. And so he left his son, I think was 7 years old at the time, 7 or 8. He got a 13-year prison sentence. Was not going to see his kid, you know, grow up and get to play ball and go fishing and do all those things. And so there was so much shame and pain, you know, that he carried. So he did a lot of work, and I got to see that transformation, and that's again part of why I connected with you so quickly, because to go into a place that has that much pain and that much darkness and be able to see them come around is really miraculous.
And they're more than the thing that they did wrong.
Yeah.
Or one, or however many times human beings are more than that. We're more than the worst thing that we've done.
Yeah.
And we all need a chance to be healed and
Yeah.
to find love and to find our worth.
Yeah.
We all deserve that.
Elle, what do you say to people who, you know, look at you and go, "Oh my gosh, I could never do that," or "You must be a saint," or, you know, like they put you on this pedestal. You're just this, and you are an amazing, amazing human being. You know, but what do you feel about that?
I'm very uncomfortable with that. Very uncomfortable with that. I have allowed something good to happen. So I've allowed something wonderful to come out of the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And I made many, many choices over the course of 10 years to allow love to win in my life. But I'm nobody special. And what I did is available to anyone. I believe that with my whole heart. I don't belong on a pedestal. I just, I guess I would want people to know that, you don't go from, like a week or two or a month or even a year after a violent act or a death like, Emily's, and just, change. It takes a while, and it took me years of saying yes to the possibility of forgiveness, and yes to the possibility of there being, of love winning in a situation that wasn't loving. There was nothing loving about losing my daughter, and yet out of her death I have learned what love really is. But it's for everyone. And no, you can't imagine, no one can imagine doing what I did. But you just need to know that it was a series of saying yes to the possibility. So I don't belong, trust me, I don't belong on a pedestal.
You know what? Your story reminds me of something I saw a kid on, I think it was 60 Minutes or something. This is years ago. And she was like 13 or 14 years old. And she was this piano virtuoso and playing in Carnegie Hall and stuff. And she said that people would say all the time, "Wow, I just wish I could do what you're doing. And I would give anything to do that." And this young girl would say, "Yeah, you wouldn't do it because you could." She's like, "Do you want to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and practice like I do 3 hours a day? Do you want to miss your parties and, you know, like all this extracurricular stuff?" Because she was so dedicated. Like, we could do these things
Absolutely.
if we chose to do them. Yeah.
And for me also, just truthfully, the bottom line of it is that it was do it or die.
Yeah.
Either die physically, because it was for a long time hard to be in this world when she was not here, or just to have that my heart become hard, and for me to become bitter. I knew that that was a possibility, and I wanted to live my life. And so, yeah, you can do it. Just say yes, yes, and yes, and yes, and yes.
Yeah. Wow, you are amazing. I mean, like to think that if I was in that situation, I would do the same thing, but none of us knows unless we're faced with it. And nobody wants to face that.
Yeah. And losing a child is probably the worst thing. Our children aren't supposed to die before we die.
Right.
And the whole thing is out of kilter. But
Yeah.
I'm really thankful for the way my life turned out, and what I'm doing now. I never in a million years would have imagined that I would have the opportunities I have now.
So tell us about some of those. What's some of the stuff you're doing?
Well, I have a job facilitating a victim impact awareness group. I'm working long distance with a group in California. So we're doing a correspondence course with the men inside who want to understand better the impact of their crimes. And so I'm a part of a little bit of curriculum building and encouragement, and I'll be corresponding with them as they do the work. So it's wonderful. And over the last summer, I spent some time with the guys inside doing victim impact circles, and for me it was life changing. You really just see that they're human beings, and there's just how to say, it's a place where you can just there's so much love you can give, and to see them and to understand a little bit of their stories and their histories, and um, it's just changed my life, and I'm really grateful.
Yeah. I think it also speaks to the idea that we can find our purpose through our pain.
Yes.
Like who would have imagined that?
Yeah. And truthfully, it's not a way I would choose.
Right.
But I'm glad that I found my purpose out of it. That something good came from it.
Right.
Something, to have meaningful work, to do something where I know that love is touching people's lives. That makes me very happy.
Yeah. I just finished listening to an audiobook. I told you about it because we're going to have to do a book club on this book. It's called Untamed by Glennon Doyle.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a section there where she talks about how we can find our purpose through looking at our pain, so like there are these things that we don't want to look at, right? You don't want to think about kids in cages or people that are suffering. It's like, if I look at that or if I deal with that, I don't know that I can come out of it. Like there's a fear that by diving into that hurt that it never ends or something. But I think it's quite the opposite, whether we're looking at things outside that hurt us so deeply or things that maybe were our own pain, that could be that access point. Like take a look at that and see what there is for you in there, that is going to grow you, that's going to expand you and evolve you. Yeah. Carl Jung, I guess it is, calls it the wounded healer.
Wounded healer, yeah.
Healer. Right? It's the alcoholic, it's the recovering alcoholic who goes on to become an AA sponsor, or the foster kid who, is now a social worker, grows up and becomes a social worker, or the asthmatic that becomes a nurse, and, on, that we can find our purpose through looking at our pain. Yeah. Great.
A great good thing.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, there's another great teacher that I've had, Mary Morrissey, and she says about having gratitude in all things. You know, so the Bible doesn't say to have gratitude for all things, but that we can be grateful in all things. Like, right? You're not grateful for the experience that came to you, but there you have been able to find things to be grateful for within that experience, if that makes sense.
Someone asked me early on how Emily's death nurtured me, or if Emily's death nurtured me. And at first, when I heard that word, I found it offensive to think about her death and the loss of her as being nurturing. Then the more I thought about it, and this was before my conversation with Alan, and as I began to go in that direction and work towards that, I realized how much her death does nurture me, and not just me, but many other people. And so having that, changing that perspective from something so difficult, and which is still difficult, I missed her every day. I cried and missed her the other day when I was thinking about one of her friends having a baby. It still hurts not to have her, but to have out of that pain, to just be able to know in my own self deeply that love is real and that it wins and that it's extravagant, and to be able to share that with others, that does feed me. It does nurture me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it nurtures the people whose lives we're touching.
Would be my hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You shared a story with us last week when we were on the after call in Zoom
Mhm.
about an experience you had with one of the young men in Circle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Would you share that?
Yeah. It actually was my first victim impact circle inside, and it was it was just amazing. And there were 19 guys in circle and sharing they introduced themselves by saying their name, the name of their victim, and how many years, how long their sentence was. And then just hearing that, hearing each of them say that, and then witnessing their tears and their emotion as they talk about their victims was very, very moving. So after I shared about Emily and shared the pictures and the story of the conversation with Alan, a young man, he couldn't look at me. He leaned forward and he said, "I know I'm supposed to love myself, but I can't because I killed a young woman." And he said, "Can you help me?" And it was it was one of those moments I can just still get in touch with the way it felt to be there and to have him ask that question. And I talked to him for a little bit, and then I just said, "I have a hug for you if you want it." And he said yes. And so I went and I hugged him, and he cried on my shoulder, and I was crying. But the amazing thing is that I felt this spirit, this mother, um, the spirit of a mother who cared so deeply for her son. And I was able just to wipe the tears off of his face and just to encourage him to know that he was loved. And it was an amazing moment for me. And it was an amazing moment for him. Then the next week, I got to go to his graduation from this program that he was in. And he shared with me that when I said what I said to him, he heard those words in the voice of his mother. And that he realized how much he missed her. And it was another case of someone's physical countenance changing, and it was amazing. And he's out now, and he texts me 2 or 3 times a week just to say good morning and tell me to have a nice day. But to be able to go and to bring that kind of healing to someone was amazing for me.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And he's working very hard, trying to get his life back together and being with his family. He was in prison for 29 years.
Wow.
He went when he was 17. So, yeah, his story is amazing.
It's really incredible work, isn't it?
It's, um, it's an opportunity. Yes,
Yeah.
it's incredible. I've learned about love. I've learned how extravagant love is, how extraordinary. I hate to use these E words, but extravagant. Love is extravagant, and how, and it's tender. This tenderness, and yeah.
You know, people ask me, I imagine they ask you too, or say, make comments like, how could you do that work? Isn't it depressing? And, you know, so many things like that. And it's like when you're there, when you're in the moment, it's not a prison, they're just people. It's
Just,
people in a circle
right?
having real conversation without a lot of the pretense. I mean, there's some pretense in prison, right? You know,
Right.
guys
Yeah.
front, but it's like a lot of those walls come down.
It's a place where you could pour. If you have love in your heart, you can pour and pour and pour that love in. I mean, I'm grateful for the work that I'm doing.
And see results,
Yeah.
right? That's the thing.
And he said, thank you for seeing me as a human being. Thank you for seeing me as a human being.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I have heard similar phrases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I've taken the work that I did in the prison, those classes, and revamping it so that I could share it with general public. It's like, you know, if you can make that kind of difference in a dark place like that, a dark, scary, like imagine what we could do in the world. But I don't know. I think there's something about being brought to your knees like that that makes you open, you know,
Yeah.
to change. And you know, what I've been doing, you know, the idea that what I've been doing isn't working. I'm open
Mm-hmm.
to something else.
Right. Right.
And I think there's a lot of people just you know, in the world, you know, whose lives could be better, but they haven't been brought to their knees yet. You know, they're not
Right.
ready to make those changes.
Right. We kind of go along in the status quo, you know, everything is, it may not be great, but it's not so bad. But Emily's death brought me to my knees, and things like that are doorways, you know, the death of a loved one or serious illness or losing a business or a fire that burns your home and everything in it. And those are doorways that you can go through to learn more and to be more. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And as you know, Donna kind of opened us with the prayer that every place we are is holy ground.
because yeah,
Right? We're always on holy ground.
that's
Yeah.
something. That idea has changed my life. Seeing things from that perspective, to see Jesus in each person who comes in my life, and to see the circumstances and just God is everywhere, in everything, in all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. Timeless message.
And
Is there anything else you want to share with us? Anything else you'd like to say?
I'm really, really grateful for this opportunity. And I just again want to say to everybody who's listening that to just entertain the idea that that you can say yes to things, and yeah, if there's someone in your life or something's happened to you like what happened to me, there's a way for you,
Hmm.
and it's for you. Love is for you.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's powerful.
I love that. There's a quote, I don't know who said it, but that life is always conspiring on our behalf.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even in the midst of the pain, when you can't see it, when you can't feel it, I think about you in that 10-year period, you know, of pain and grief, and of that being almost like your cocoon, you know, like the butterfly going into the cocoon, and like you have to go through that,
Right.
right? You can't bypass it.
No.
The only way through it is through it.
Right.
And sometimes we stay long, and sometimes we, you know, but everybody has their time.
You have to feel it, and you have to. You can't ignore the pain or the sorrow or the grief. You have to feel it and let it have it. Let it have its way with you. And yeah.
Yeah, it's an important message these days. I think there's so much pain right now. You know, people either sickness or, you know, changes in their lifestyle. I mean, nothing is the same as it was, and there's a lot of grief.
Yeah.
That grief is the price we pay
Right.
for that love.
For loving. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're at a great jumping off place in our world now with the things that are happening with the virus, and this is a time when we can make different decisions and make changes and become the kind of society that we want to be. And it's again like this time can nurture us if we're open to that.
Yeah. Well, I'm affirming that
Yes.
100%.
Me too.
100%.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
And I'm just, again, so grateful that you took the time to be with us today. And I look forward to working with you. You don't have to be all the way on the West Coast. We're going to do stuff right here in Florida.
Yes. May it be so.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We need to do that. This is an idea that needs to spread. It needs to take root, and it needs to grow. So I thank you for being on the forefront and for sharing your story.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Are you going to join us after?
Sure. I wouldn't miss it.
Great, great. So we'll be getting back together again on Zoom. There'll be an invitation in the chat for whoever is on there on Facebook. And we'll be together. We'll check in and we'll chat and we'll talk some more with Elle.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you. Take care. We'll see you in a little bit.
Okay.
Wow, my heart is full. Love that woman. Anyway, let's see what's going on now. So yeah, let's say it's time to share our gifts and tithes. You know, going to invite you to do a text to tithe. Where is that? The banner here. Yeah, there we go. So there's lots of ways that you can give to the Center for Spiritual Living, and this is what we do, and we really do need financial support to be able to continue doing this. And we so appreciate everybody. I know lots of you give, and if there are lots watching, you know, a few people giving, a lot of people giving a little bit is a lot, and that's a wonderful thing. So we just appreciate everything and know that as we give, we receive. And if you want to have friendship, you give friendship. If you want to have more money, you give more money, right? It's like that. And so I hope that you will give to the place where you are spiritually fed. If it's not this, let it be someplace else. But be sure to stay in that flow of giving your time, of giving your talent and your treasure. And so we have an affirmation that we do, and you're welcome to make this your own. So we say sharing our gifts and tithes. Affirmation is a great spiritual tool that we use, that we speak to about the thing that we want to experience. Even if you're not feeling it right now or you're not quite there, that you say an affirmation and it helps bring it into your experience. So as we share our gifts and tithes, if you're going to make that phone call to that message there, or you can go on PayPal, that you say this little affirmation to yourself. And it is the nature of life to give of itself. As it is the tree's nature to bear fruit and the flower's nature to bloom, it is my nature to share the gifts of my time, talent, and treasure. I participate in the divine flow of life, giving generously and receiving abundantly. I am blessed and I am a blessing. I am grateful. And so it is. And so it is. So let's see what's going on at CSL Ocala, Center for Spiritual Living Ocala. We're working on a book club. Possibly, we're working on some ways to, for during the week, for people to be able to gather in just informal kind of spiritual community. We're not gathering in person yet, not as a large group. We may have some smaller groups gathering at the center. So just be on the lookout. We'll be sending out a newsletter here soon so you can know the things that are going on. And again, if you're interested in that Big Sky retreat, there's a nice discount for signing up and registering by Tuesday. And then we'll start planning for next year, for 2021. I'd love to have a great big contingent from Ocala to join us at Big Sky. So I think that's it. Tune in next week. I've got our guest is going to be Reverend Sarah Nichols, who is on the, I can't think of the name right now, but she's larger in the organization. And Sarah's joining us from California. And we're going to talk about voting and the values that Centers for Spiritual Living holds, not to tell you which way to vote, but to really encourage you to vote and to vote your values. And so we're going to have a conversation about that next week. And so I think that's it. We'll do our prayer for protection. I hope you all have a fabulous week. You can say this along with me if you want. It comes from our friends at Unity. And it is: the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Remember, every place you are is holy ground. As we look in and at our friends and our family and even people, our acquaintances, people we may not get along with, and realize that they are all indeed the face of God, and we are all on holy ground. So I hope you all have a fabulous week. Hope to catch some of you on Zoom, and we will catch up again soon. Take care.